Hey, Corner Crew. It is Christina and Cindy with Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. And this is our second episode of our special edition of Rolling with Ruby, and we're calling it Engines Off. And then today we are adding a title called Dreaming On or Dreams On. So Engines Off, Dreams On. So Cindy and I usually do a podcast from our van.
Yes.
We call her Ruby. That's right. And so that's why we call it Rolling with Ruby. And we try to give out some information about things that we've learned in our therapy careers.
Right.
And we've run across so many great people in our experience with Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. And so we thought we would like to bring these caregivers, most of them are caregivers,
right,
to you and let you guys learn more about them. And if they've got a product, we can learn more about their product. Most of these people, Cindy, will probably have a product that we've done a product review for.
Right. Because caregivers have to be resourceful.
That's right.
And a lot of times in their caregiving journey, they come up with something that helps them in that journey. And then sometimes it changes to entrepreneurship.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So today we have with us Kathleen Quinn. She is the founder and inventor of Mobility Towel.
Right.
And so we would like to welcome Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
We appreciate your time and coming on here. So Kathleen, first of all, let's start off by maybe telling us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I have over 35 years of experience in higher ed. My entire professional career has been in higher education, working all on the student side of things and student affairs. So started out working in residential life, had some stints coaching in athletics, senior women's administrator, orientation, facilities and conferences, but most recently, served as Dean of Students, Associate Dean of Students, and really have had what I call a privilege to work in that environment with college students. Much like caregiving, you get to be with people, and when students or, my mom in this case, my dad, let you in on their journey, it's a privilege to share that journey with them. And so I've been very fortunate for the career that I've had in higher education, and very grateful for the experience.
That is
So your caregiving journey kind of spans the lifetime spectrum, doesn't it? From
It does.
college all the way up until with your aging parents and stuff.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, tell us how your caregiving journey, with your mom, how it happened and what ultimately led to your development of the Mobility Towel.
Yeah. So, as a young child, I remember my mom had rheumatoid arthritis. And so I can remember, probably being, I think it was my 5th birthday. I remember my mom being in the hospital for something. And just growing up, I don't know that I really grasped everything in her limitations that she had because of her arthritis. But I remember my dad having to give her, back in the day, gold shots and and all of that. And just remember her, she had a wonderful attitude, and that made all the difference. So there was never any focus on her limitations, but I know we would kind of not make fun, but there were times when, in the day when parents would spank, we would joke, that my mom really couldn't spank us because her fingers were fused in her wrist. She really couldn't get a good slap, But let me tell you, her grip had some strength because she could pull your hair like nobody's business if you needed it. She wasn't always a good disciplinarian, but when she did, boy, she had that grip strength to
That's awesome.
hair. So, but as I grew older and more in probably college, she started having, she had her first hip replacement in 1984. And it was during that time in 1984, back at that time, and I think there's still some similarities. She had that foam piece she had to wear between her legs and then be rolled every 2 hours. And because of her arthritis, she couldn't roll herself. And so I slept at the foot of the bed, and then every 2 hours we were rolling her over. And, again, you talk about opportunities and moments that can either drain you or you can use them for good. And good conversations at 4 in the morning when we were rolling over. And it was one of those mornings where probably about 4 in the morning, we rolled over and then she said, "I have a favor to ask." I said, "Okay." She said, "Will you shave my legs tomorrow?"
Uh-huh.
And I thought, yeah, that's fine. And so she rolled over. I got back on the floor and was laying there. And we had the TV on all the time. And I kept thinking, I want to figure out how she can do it for herself.
Right.
One of these commercials came on, that one where it hits the rock. Do you have an idea or invention? And I thought,
Oh yeah.
come to me, like I need to do something. So I was excited. The next morning we got up and I got a yardstick and I taped the to the end of it and thought, "Oh, Mom, try this. You'll be able to do it for yourself." And in theory, it was a great idea, but it didn't work at all because it was just one straight thing. And unless she could stand up and get an angle, it wasn't working. So that led into my first invention and patent and all of that. But then she continued, she had hip revision surgery, which has a lot more restrictions, other hips, knees replaced. But in 1998, she had a AVM, arterial venous malformation. It really, for a number of months, she was really debilitated. It affected her balance and her movement. And I thought I could cook until every time I gave her something to eat, she didn't keep it. She gave it back to me. So, just, learning that way. But it became my goal to look at what she could do and figure out a way that she didn't have to ask for everything that she needed. I wanted to try to anticipate, and there was a fine of what she needed, but there was a fine balance of how far is too much to enable.
Right.
And not, in my good-heartedness, I want to do for her.
Right.
But is it really becoming a detriment if she could do some things for herself? So balancing that took a lot. And I think watching my dad, I didn't always appreciate how he did things or what he did because he was so good at, letting her do, and I say letting her do because he didn't make her, but he wasn't,
encouraged.
She did everything. Yeah. And I didn't always see it that way. It wasn't until much later that I really came to appreciate. She probably maintained her independence longer than would have if we would have kept.
So Kathleen, let me ask you another question. Do you remember a time since you've been helping your mom since you were young, was there ever a time as you grew that you had this aha moment, or at least this moment where you're like, you know what, I am going to be the caregiver now for my mom? Or was it one of those roles that just kind of snuck up on you? Did you kind of grow into it and it was never even a question? Or it just one day you woke up and you're like, I'm my mom's caregiver?
Yeah. That's a good question. And I think it just evolved. As her conditions changed, and surgeries, and she ended up with multiple myeloma, and had a stem cell transplant. And so she was here, and circumstances make a difference. I mean, our family, I'm so fortunate for the family that I'm in and the care and concern that everybody has, and people traveling to help. But my circumstances were different. I was single. I could be here and had a lot more flexibility. And so, I guess I never really thought twice about it. Like it's my mom. It's what you do. But what really made the difference too was her attitude and her appreciation for things and her recognition that she needed help. I've come to say that I didn't realize either the grace, and maybe that's not the right word, but the grace that you have to have when you're the one being cared for.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a tough one.
Because it's not easy.
Yeah. And even that's a balance, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Because first of all, it's a change in your life.
Right.
And then and so she has to have those emotions, dealing with that. but then trying to find that grace. I think that's the best word for it, Kathleen.
Right.
That grace to give to especially your daughter, your child that is caregiving to you. But your mom had that. She already had kind of a sunny disposition already. You guys had a nickname for her, didn't you?
We did. When my nephew was about 2 years old, he named her Happy.
Happy.
And it stuck. I mean, that's how everybody referred to her as Happy. And she just had a sense of humor. Just a real quick story. There were two when she was at Siteman Cancer Center with her stem cell transplant, and 2 times for a period of time she was on a ventilator, and they had, I guess she could hear and everything, and they heard them talking that the next morning they were going to see about removing the ventilator. And I guess for her, they didn't come in on her time. She ended up pulling the ventilator out and got it out. And all the bells and whistles went off, and a lot of people came into the room. And boy, she didn't miss a beat. The doctor finally came in and said something to her, and he was getting ready to leave. And she said, I have one question. Who do I send the bill to?
No doubt.
Her job,
No doubt.
And then the other one, just, she had made friends with all the caregivers in the hospital, and she was moved quite a bit to different sections of the floor. One time she was on 5,700, then down to 5,600. And one of the caregivers came in and said, what's going on? I've seen you upstairs. I've seen you down here and everything. And again, she didn't miss a beat. And she just said, I sleep around. She endeared herself to everybody. And it just, as tough as times were, we had a lot of good times and a lot of good laughs.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
That you have those memories to carry with you, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Kathleen, we ran across your mobility towel. I can't even remember. It's been a while since we've known each other. You sent us your mobility towel, and we did a product review on it. And so what I would like to do now is show people that product review video that we did for mobility towel, and then come back and kind of get your take on the mobility towel. Okay.
Yeah.
Cindy here, physical therapist with Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. Today we're going to review a product by the company K-Inspired called the Mobility Towel. Thank you, K-Inspired, for giving us a mobility towel for this review. If you find this video helpful, like and share on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check us out at aecorner.com. So let's get started. So this is the mobility towel. It was designed for individuals who have limitations in movement, whether it's from weakness, pain, poor balance, or lack of motion, causing difficulty reaching their feet or legs or back when drying off after bathing. So the mobility towel is 100% cotton. It's machine washable and it's dryable. It's got these very nice, let's take a look at this, hand grips right in the middle of the towel. So if you have trouble with grip, you can actually just slide your hands through this and still mobilize it. But it has these very nice grips here. And then at the bottom of one end, it is weighted. So there's 3 ounces of weight on each side of this towel, totaling 6 ounces of weight. And the way this works is with the weight and gravity, the towel actually applies enough force to assist in drying. So let's take a look at how this works. So here's the weighted end of the towel. You can see these 2 soft weights on each side. There's no weight here in the middle. And then again, right here in the middle of the towel is this nice area for hand grip, or you can slide your hands through if you don't have good grip. So the way I'm going to do this is if I'm seated or standing, I'm going to take the hand grips, I'm going to let the weight of the towel bring it down on the bottom of my leg, and then you're just going to pull it up your leg. And again, with the weight and gravity, that's going to give you enough force against the skin to help dry the skin. So you can just move your leg around like this. Now, the other nice thing is you can use it to dry your toes. So putting your foot on this, on one of the weights and kind of working it back and forth helps with drying. I also took my other foot and flipped this other weight right on top, and I used my other foot to just kind of help dry my toes as well. So that's another option. Or if you don't have use of your other foot, use a reacher, something like that. But that's for the feet and the legs. Now, this is also used, it can be used for the back. So the nice thing about this, I really love the weighted end, because if I don't have a lot of range of motion, I can actually take this towel, and because of the weight, I can just kind of sling it around to my back. And with the weight here, I can use the weight to dry my back. So as you pull up, the weights are going to pull the towel back down for you, and you can move that around and dry your back with the mobility towel as well. So that's a mobility towel. We at Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner feel like this is a great product for anyone who struggles drying their feet, legs, or back after bathing, helping those individuals to maintain their modesty, dignity, and independence. Be sure to check out the comment section below for the link to the mobility towel. That's it for today from Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. Have a great day, and don't forget, if you can't do it, adapt it.
Yeah, so right there at the end, Kathleen, we always, one of our taglines is, if you can't do it, adapt it. And I feel like with your product, that could not be any truer than that. It really meets that for sure. So tell us about the mobility towel. We have one next to us too. So kind of run us through the mobility towel, and let's get your take on it.
Okay. So each component of the mobility towel was designed with a solving a pain point that I saw my mom experience. And you talk about adapting it. When she asked me to dry her off after bathing, we were talking about what can you do? Where do I need to help, and those types of things. And so I started, thinking again about what I could do to adapt.
Yeah.
And
let me ask you real quick. So you would have to come and dry her off after a shower. Now, did you guys live in the same house at that time?
At that time, I was here with her. Yes.
Okay. But you had your own schedule and stuff. So you would have to coordinate schedules. And so that kind of left her dependent on your schedule, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine, some mornings I want to get up in the morning and take my shower right away. Some mornings I'm up early and I want to take my time and want to take it later. She didn't have that luxury of doing it when she wanted to do it.
Right.
If she wanted to do it 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she couldn't until I got home from work, So
So you kind of looked at what she was able to do.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And see how we could solve that pain point. And so, for her, despite her finger grips on pulling hair, as she got older, sometimes gripping things was a little more difficult, and maneuvering the towel was difficult because her wrists were fused and her fingers were fused. And so the handles are designed across the towel. There are 3 handles, and it's meant so that you could either grasp it with your hands or slide your wrists through and use it. And then, the other thing, it's designed I like to say every towel tells a story, because every user is different and has different abilities and needs. And so some people may use the handles, grip them, slide your wrists through. Some people may not need the handles at all, depending on their need. So the handles were intentional for gripping. The weights, we tried a normal towel just to see, as I'm drying off, can you do this? Does the towel work there? And it didn't, because it wasn't heavy enough. And so there's weights at each corner of the bottom of the towel. The middle part, there are no weights, so that it can easily drape over your legs. So playing around with weights. What's too heavy? What's not heavy enough? Took a lot of trial and error and people testing and things like that.
So Kathleen, we've got somebody's asking in the audience. They said, did your mom have any changes to the design?
To the prototype.
Yeah, to the prototype.
Yeah. Yep. And at first, so my as I call my crude prototype, was made with Ziploc bags and sandbags, full of sand for my weights, and safety pins for pockets to put the weights in. And so my first design, I had pockets that the weights would come out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I used Velcro at first, but it got tough for her to do it. It's a small piece and pulling the weight out before you throw it in the wash. You know,
Right.
I needed to find a way. And then I had weights going across
Yeah.
Mhm.
towel. And so the part in the middle was
Yeah.
redesigned. She had a lot of input into the design.
That's
Yeah, it is
awesome.
awesome.
Did
Yeah.
you, how many prototypes did you go through or iterations of it, would you say
Oh,
before
gosh.
you did it ready?
Probably, I should all frame them all because I have them all. At least a half a dozen to
Wow.
a dozen with just different
Yeah.
pocket sizes and what fits. You know, at first I had a deep pocket for the
Yeah.
weights, and then the weight wasn't distributed right. Yeah.
So what did you land on as far as the weight in in the hem?
The weight is each side has 3 ounces of added weight.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they're poly pellets, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have to take them out. They're sewn in a bag and sewn in the towel. So
Yeah.
you just throw it in the washer and dryer just like any other towel.
That's
Right.
nice.
And no
And
problems in the dryer for sure. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
the weights, you know, I wanted to have them be pliable and move around because one of the pain points was
Yeah.
she could never get between her toes. And, you know, that can
Right.
become a problem with fungus and
Oh,
all
yeah.
sorts of things. And so I wanted something that you could rub your foot over and kind of work it in.
Right.
And so having the weights loose enough to move around was important too.
Right.
And
So,
then, yeah.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then the placement of the handles at
Mhm.
the midpoint of the towel was intentional as well. You can fold the towel over and use it double, but part of the intention was if somebody still had somebody in the bathroom with them, they could use that top part of the towel if they were sitting to
Mhm.
cover themselves and have a
Right.
little dignity. And so,
Right.
and then the straps were designed in three handles, so they're tacked down. It's one long strap, but tacked down in 2 places, so you essentially have three different handles. And again, depending on your ability and how high you can reach for your back, a lot of people
Right.
use it shoulder injuries. That center strap, if you use a center strap and throw it over, it lays nicely on your back. And you know the weights are important because the gravity does the work.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it holds it tight to the skin
Right.
for an effective dry.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can certainly attest to that because, you know,
Yeah.
when we take a look at products, we certainly use
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
And we use this just as well.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I had a little skepticism initially, thinking, is this really going to get me dry? But by golly, yes, the weights, the combination of the weights, the cotton towel, and gravity certainly did the job. Certainly
Yeah.
did the job. It was very cool.
Yeah, the other thing, you know, that I found interesting, one is to be a caregiver and a designer of a new product.
Mhm.
What my assumptions are, how important it is to talk to all sorts of different people.
Yes.
Right.
The assumptions that I make, I don't even know my, I guess, unconscious bias, if you want to use that term, to
Right.
what I can do because, you know, I tried 3 ounces of weights, 4 ounces of weight, 5 ounces of weight, 6 ounces of weight. And I thought we'd probably land around 5 ounces.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had somebody use it, and they have major shoulder
Oh,
issues and everything. It was too heavy.
wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that
And-
interesting?
And, you know, it's not going to be for everyone as much as I'd love for it to be for everyone. It's not for everyone. Some people it's going to work great and make a huge difference, and others, because of their, you know, mobility issues, it may not fit
Right.
them.
Right.
Uh,
You know, and that's what we always say, Kathleen, is that, you know, with these products and stuff, it's not a, you know, it's
One
not meant
size
for
fits
everybody.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not a
Mhm.
panacea, you know, so,
Right.
but everybody deserves options. So maybe it's
Right.
not for you.
Right.
Maybe it's for somebody that you know, or maybe there's, you know, it could be for somebody else. I mean, but there's so much stuff out there, you know, pass that information along, but
Right.
every product isn't going to be for everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's I think that's very interesting that a lot of
Right.
people don't see it, that they think it's supposed to fix everything, you know,
Right.
and
Right. And
certainly it can help a lot.
Mhm.
Right. And it's interesting because I designed the product for my mom who had some balance and rheumatoid arthritis and, bending and all of
Yeah.
that issues.
Mhm.
And as I talk to people, I'm amazed. For me, shows my limited knowledge. I was focused on my mom, but there are people who've come up and said, "Oh my gosh, I could have used this. My grandmother could have used it after open heart surgery." When
Yes.
your sternum is cut open and you don't want to be bending or anything, and just to
Right,
be able, and there were ailments and conditions that I hadn't even thought of or considered.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And so do people reach out to you then whenever they purchase the towel and say, I've got this or I've got that, and I
Right.
think this would be helpful
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
That's always got to be satisfying to hear.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is.
It's interesting too to hear the different stories from different people using it, because I think, again, we kind of have that focus a lot of times when we're thinking about things like that. And if you haven't had the experience, then,
Right.
it makes a big difference. But we talk about people, the function doesn't always look the same,
Yeah.
Right.
but it is still functional. So if you
Right.
can find something like the mobility towel to assist in your function, it's not going to be the same. Drying with this towel maybe is not the same as a regular towel, but it's still functional and helps with your independence and your
Yeah.
dignity. And that's the huge
Right.
part behind
Right.
all of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think of the mobility towel as kind of a gateway to independence and a
Yeah.
rehabilitation tool that gets you there,
That's exactly
And
right.
not to mention the functional independence, but the dignity.
Yeah.
The dignity that you gave your mom was
Right.
huge.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of these products do that. They give that dignity back to the individual.
Mhm.
Because they've been doing it their whole life.
Right.
Now things change and they are going to need some more help or more help.
Right.
And, giving that dignity, what a gift.
Yeah.
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 Kathleen, you've had such a caregiver experience,
Yeah.
with your mom, and I know we know a lot with several family members. And if you had to give caregivers a word of advice, if they're actually working toward developing some type of product that they developed when they were a caregiver, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah. Do it, especially if it makes a difference for your loved one.
Mhm.
If there's a way to do it, and I would say, you know, talk with protect your idea, but talk
Right.
with people where you feel comfortable and trust that you'll get feedback. And
Mhm.
I think the other thing is attitude and mindset makes such a difference when you go in. I can remember when I was first starting and trying to think up of names and had a crude prototype and just showing it to some family members at an event, and just all the question, well, what about you should do this, and what about this name, and what about that name, and
Right.
Mhm.
what about this and what about that, and we got in the car to leave, and somebody said to me, "Oh my God, I'm so glad we're out of there. That would drive me crazy. How did you take it?"
Right.
And I thought, I kind of looked at him like, really? Like, all of that information is so important. I may not
Right.
agree with it. I may not
Right.
like to hear it, but
Mhm.
it helps me frame the questions I need to answer. It
Mhm.
helps me solidify the why I'm
Mhm.
doing it. Why do I have handles this way, or why are the weights that way? Well, this is the reason why.
Right.
And it may give me something to change and consider, And
Right.
so the good, the bad, and the ugly feedback is
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah,
And
it really
um,
is.
it's hard to hear sometimes, but it does make a difference.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
it's interesting it's difficult sometimes to balance that, everybody's questioning and then sometimes negativity toward,
Yeah.
toward, sometimes it's like hard to overcome. You feel a little,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe this isn't such a great idea,
Yeah.
but I like your take on the bottom line is all of it is good. And maybe take a little bit of time and realize, okay, I'll get over, getting my feelings hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there are some things, and I say that because we've kind of messed around with some products and
Yeah.
things like that. But
yeah.
it's a good piece of advice. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there are going to be the naysayers who say, well, that's a dumb idea. Who needs it? And I just want to say, have you ever experienced a time when you
Right.
haven't been able to do for yourself?
Yeah.
And most of the time it's no,
Yeah, that's
they
right.
haven't.
Yeah.
And,
you
I
thought outside
want to
of
say,
yourself.
okay, tie your hand behind your back and
Yeah.
now try to do it with one arm,
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
so,
So, well, before we wrap this up, we do want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Tausi Brands, and so we're going to watch a little commercial about Tausi.
Yes.
Falling asleep with your head in the wrong position is a pain in the neck. You deserve Tausi Comfort for head, neck, and back support. Go to tausibrands.com and get your comfort on.
Great. So thanks, Tausi, for doing that. We appreciate
Yes.
that. Tausi would make a great Father's Day gift.
It certainly would. It
Yeah.
certainly would. Tausi, I use the Tausi, the support system behind my back. You can use it for your neck. You
Yeah.
really need to check it out. It's a good piece of
That's right. It helps.
I say good piece of equipment. It's not really equipment,
It's
but
a neck support system.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, Kathleen, we really appreciate you coming on
Yeah.
here, taking your time out of your day and coming to talk to us. And we appreciate everything that you've done with Mobility Towel
Right.
and letting us, it's been an honor to be able to help promote the Mobility Towel because we know what the right tool for the right situation, what a difference it can make in people's lives. So we really appreciate all that you've done. And thanks for being on here with us.
Well, I really appreciate it. It is a labor of love, and it's really to get it out there in my mom's legacy for helping others. So
That's
thank
right.
you for the opportunity.
It's our pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, that is it as far as this episode 2. It's in the can, I think is what they say, Sin.
Yeah, I believe it is.
All
That's
right.
what it is.
So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.